This is Grace, Grit, Getting It Done, the podcast for women who want to expand their influence, increase their earnings, and advance in their careers all the way into the C-suite. I'm your host, Lisa Gillette. Let's get started. How do you define leadership? What makes a really good leader? What are the core qualities shared by every great leader, regardless of their leadership style? How can you quickly recognize when someone in senior leadership is simply not equipped or ready to lead? It's not about the title, it's not about the power, and it's certainly not about the visibility or the performance for the sake of performance. Leadership isn't about looking strong, it's about being strong mentally, emotionally, and strategically. Being a true leader requires a daily commitment, a deliberate choice, anchored in purpose, guided by intention, and sustained by the courage to make the hard choices that benefit the greater good, not the chosen few. Leadership is a privilege and a responsibility that must be earned. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Mariné Avagyan, executive coach with over 25 years experience in leadership and education. Dr. Avagyan specializes in a coaching process that develops both high-performance teams and purpose-driven leaders. Her work is grounded in the core values that empower leaders to embody purpose, intention, and tenacity in both how they lead and how they live. Her work is shaped by decades of experience and her deep commitment to creating, cultivating, and sustaining transformational leadership. Today, we'll be talking about the real life challenges that all women in leadership face, the invisible cost of caregiving, the burdens of self care and self regulation, and how to address the systemic lack of women in senior leadership. Dr. Avagyan, welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me, Lisa. This is such a great pleasure to have an opportunity to share with your audience.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. So let's jump in. I love that you describe leadership as both a privilege and a responsibility. Can you just describe that? Tell me more about that.
Absolutely. Um, I think it's really important for us to keep in mind that leadership is a privilege. It is a privilege to have been given the opportunity to influence and to serve a community, an organization, association, and move them to their next stage. It is a great responsibility because it's our ability to guide the growth of that organization. It is our responsibility to bring people to their highest potential. And that's where that privilege comes in. For me, as I work with leaders, we talk a lot about that deeper emotional intelligence that plays such a critical role in those relationships to connect deeply with people, to be able to really manage ourselves, our own emotion with that self leadership, and to be authentic as we're leading others, to allow them to take that model and to build within themselves that connection and the responsibility to do the work, to really ultimately realize their own potential. And the greatest joy that I see is when we see those that we have served step up to leadership themselves. And that is why I believe this is such a privilege that we get to build more leaders by our own model.
So important. You work with many leaders who are navigating high stake environments, ambiguity, complexity. What specific challenges do women face in claiming their authority as a leader?
Well, that is such an important question. I think as women, we play dual roles. When we step up to leadership, we have the role of the leadership in the organization, but we also have that role of the caregiver in our own life and families. And sometimes what we find is that we package them separately. So we leave caregiving on the side, we leave that role, that personality, that gift that is often innate in us aside and then we step into the leadership role. Um, what I find is that when we create that dichotomy between there, I'm the caregiver out there, and then here I come into my work and now I am the leader, we often find ourselves in that disaligned
Yeah.
space where we are no longer serving from where we truly are, where our heart is, in that nurturing, caring state. And we are often trying to identify ourselves with the traditional models of leadership, which may not be natural to us, which may not seem as aligned to us. And certainly, this is a general statement. There are people who are different, but generally, if we're able to see that nurturing, caregiving um, intention and innate experience that we have is actually quite valuable in our leadership, especially in high stakes
Yeah.
leadership, because oftentimes a situation that requires that dynamic, adaptable leader
Mhm.
actually requires a lot of nurturing approach. Now, I want to be very clear that nurturing does not mean soft and wishy-washy and just mommy type of
Right.
leadership.
Right.
That's where our greatest role comes in, that we know when we need to be the leader who's actually driving the work and where we need to be the leader who's behind the work and creating an environment where those we serve are stepping up. They're seeing the leader in themselves and stepping up. So for women leaders, owning our feminine leadership and bringing it into our workplace, into our organizations, into our communities is actually a superpower that we already have.
Yes.
We do not need to leave it outside the door and become someone else, because that often will lead to burnout, because we're no longer doing what comes naturally,
Right.
and overwhelm, and like I said, a complete disalignment.
Yeah. Yeah. Which many leaders face, male and female. I love your comment that it's emotional intelligence you're talking about, truly. That collaborative, uh, educating, sort of supporting, encouraging style is
Mhm.
what is needed today versus that command control directive style, which we do see sometimes. So you did really answer this question, but I want to dive in a little bit deeper. Why it is so urgent to diversify senior leadership teams? What are the risks of not having more of that leadership style that is collaborative, that is encouraging, that is emotionally intelligent?
I strongly believe that the most powerful leadership is having many perspectives. Because when we are only the command, demand, ruling leader,
Command.
right?
I
who
love
is
that. Yeah.
who's truly focused more on the ego than on the service,
Hmm.
we only have one side of the picture. We only have one perspective on the situation. And we really are missing out on what could be possible. In working with leaders, I always invite them to think about what could be possible, what might work. And when we don't have other perspectives, we only have one perspective, which is our own. So having that diverse community in our organizations, having that diverse team amongst our leadership brings all these different perspectives. It creates an opportunity for us to really take a concept, take an idea, take a direction, and look at it from different ways and really have that intentional direction that we take given the different perspectives. So that's the important piece. And on the other side of it is those we serve, whether it's our employees, our company, or our clients, they too have diverse perspectives and diverse views. So when they cannot see themselves in what we provide, because it's only one vision, one direction, they're going to be less connected with us.
Mhm.
However, when we in our leadership team, when we in our organization are leading with those diverse perspectives, really giving those an opportunity to say, what would it look like if we
Right.
considered this? What would it look like if we changed this part? Then we're able to create a product, create service that our clients will see themselves and will connect with because we have given it an opportunity. In a workplace that is not diverse, we are ultimately perpetuating homogeneity, where
Yeah.
it's everything's homogeneous, everything sounds the same, everything looks the same. And eventually, I will just say personally, it will be boring. I mean,
Yeah.
that's like the
And
biggest.
not only boring, but never really reaching its full potential.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's where disconnect happens. We talk about employees not being engaged. How do we make it engaging is when we bring perspectives into the play. When it's one way, eventually people will disconnect. They will go to the place where they will be seen and heard.
Yes.
So that's what I mean by boring, not just the simple idea, well, it's boring, I don't want to do it. But ultimately, we want to be a workplace
Hmm.
and lead a workplace that is attracting our
Yes.
employees, the highest quality employees who know that they're seen and heard, but
Hmm.
also the highest service and the clientele who see that this organization sees me, not just one sided. So I think diversifying our leadership is really important so that we are having this global perspective and serving a global community and not just a one sided, narrow focused field.
Yeah. I know there's been so much research done too that when there's greater diversity in senior leadership, just at the 35% mark, that the return to the bottom line increases exponentially. So yeah, so there's a financial reason too to get greater, along
100%.
with greater engagement, greater employee retention, all of that. Before we go any further, I would love for you to share what is the easiest way for listeners to reach out and connect with you.
So I am very active on LinkedIn, and I invite your audience, your listeners, to definitely reach out to me. I would love this conversation to continue and to see how I can learn from them and they can hear from me. So please connect with me on LinkedIn. It's Dr. Mariné Avagyan on LinkedIn, and let me know what your takeaways are, and let's connect. Let's grow our network and connect and learn from each other.
Awesome. And all of Dr. Avakian's social and contact and email are all in the show notes. So simply check out the show notes too. Now, I know you also have a special gift for listeners, which I'm definitely taking advantage of. But before I ask you about it, I would ask you to tell me about that moment when you realized this work you're doing, coaching leadership and developing high performing teams, was your life's calling. Because I know you were in education and so you were doing
Mhm.
this anyway, but then when was that moment that you decided to pivot?
I think the moment was part of this experience that I had as I moved up in my roles, and now I was serving other educators and leading other educators. And I noticed that often people were promoted to positions of leadership because they were really good at the job they were holding at the time,
Right.
whether it was you know, and in my field with education, whether it was a classroom teacher, whether it was a professor, they were now promoted to a leadership role because they were really good in that position. And soon after being promoted, they would start feeling the challenge and begin to feel the um, self-doubt and the lack of that confidence that they had in the area that they were in. And as I observed this over and over in over the 25 years of my experience, it felt sad for me that you would have these incredible people with great intentions, with great passions, who were placed in roles that they were not ready. nor were they prepared. Now, yes, we all go have education, we all go and learn and get our degrees, but it's a different thing when you're placed in front of people and you're given the charge of leading a department, an organization, a group of people. That is not the same as what you were doing behind the desk when you were reporting to someone else.
Right.
And when people are not ready, this is not the time to say you're going to go take a course and you're going to learn this, because the issues are happening moment by moment. The moment you're handed the chair, the key, the door, your office, immediately there are requests, immediately there are things to manage. And when a person's feeling that lack of confidence, the person's feeling that pressure, especially middle management, where you have people you report to, and then there are people who report to you. There's this sense of, well, I can't go to my supervisors and tell them I don't know what to do, because there's a sense of, what if I'm seen as if I'm incompetent?
Exactly.
I can't really go to my former colleagues because they are now my reports, so I can't really tell them. So that leadership can be really a lonely place. And in a lonely place, you will find yourself with a lot of self-doubt. And that could lead to a lot of challenges and issues. So one of the things that I noticed um, with the leaders was, they would either become power driven. Well,
Oh,
because I'm the boss, I can just tell people this is how you're going to do it, even
yeah.
though I can't even figure what we're doing. Or become pushovers, where now we're asking people to, would you do me a favor and do this? Sure, if you just do this because we want to be liked. Neither of those are the extremes. Neither of those are really serving the organization or our purpose or our goals, nor will they bring us to the performance that we actually expect in our organization. So that experience that I noticed year after year after year in all the different roles I've played, um, it just made me think, we really need to work on developing leaders the moment they're handed the role, really emphasizing how we support them. And I find that coaching is that best way, because it happens with the job, on the job, throughout the job, so that that person who comes in with great passion and interest and intention to serve actually
Can.
knows how to do that and has a place to have those conversations without feeling the pressure of, I don't want anyone to know I don't know.
Right. Which can be really crippling. You built a really powerful career at the intersection of education, coaching, and leadership. If you could go and give your younger self advice, what would you say to yourself?
I love this question. I would say, definitely trust yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Trust yourself,
Yeah.
because I will say, I there were opportunities that I did not take because I doubted. And
Mm.
I think the other piece is, definitely build your personal board of advisors, your personal board of mentors that you go to regularly, because as you're developing in your career, in trying to perform and demonstrate that you got this, it's very easy to become completely go back into our shell, because again, we don't want people to know that we don't know something. It's a little difficult to say I don't know. But if you have your board of advisors, if you have your mentors, those are people you can go to. And certainly if you have a coach, you can go to people who will help you get back in that empowered, confident space, that you can go back to the role, bringing that to your teams and moving forward. So for me, it would be, trust yourself and build your board of advisors and your team of mentors earlier. It took
Hmm.
me a while before I got that. So I would have done that earlier. And I will say this, thankfully, I had many great mentors who surrounded me even without me thinking of them as mentors. So they reached out to me, which I greatly appreciated. And for
Yeah.
anyone who's starting, that's where I would advise people to start, because that will carry you through for many years.
Hmm. I love your comment about creating a circle of support. And one thing for all listeners, if you are stepping into a leadership role, let's say you were in junior management, you're stepping into middle management, which is really a hard road. You don't need to do it alone. You can reach out to Dr. Avakian and get the kind of support that is really going to set you up for future success. So please share one more time, Marine, how people can reach out to you and give us your URL for your website for those listening,
Sure.
because I know you've got a lot of great resources there.
Of course. So please connect with me on LinkedIn. Just as Lisa said, I would love to know how to support you and see what your next step is. I would love to celebrate you for that. So definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. Let me know that you found me on Lisa's podcast. And my website is www. It's Dr. Dr. Marine, Marine, my initial .com. And on my website, you can also connect with me. And if you let me know that you saw me on Lisa's podcast, you heard me on Lisa's podcast, I will gladly send you the self-reflection journal that will give you an opportunity to really have that introspection over the next 31 days and perhaps build a habit of self-reflection.
A fantastic gift. I love that. It takes, what is it, 21 days to build a habit. So 31 days is great. So you've created a framework that you call PIT, purpose, intention, and tenacity. And I know that you're using that in this gift that you're so generously giving to listeners and viewers. Please just explain that framework. How did you design it? What motivated it? Just tell us more about that.
Of course. So the pit is a place where we find ourselves often in life. If we were with a live audience, I would ask, raise your hand, how many of you find it, recently found yourself or are currently in the pit. It is a place where we get ourselves to when life throws a lot of hurdles our way. That is just normal. It will happen. What is important, though, in my framework is to know that the pit isn't the dark, scary place. The pit is a necessary place for us to stop and to really contemplate, to really pause and think about where are we and realign back to our purpose. Life will drive us places. Life's experiences and circumstances will create things in our life that might divert us from where we actually want to be or what our true purpose is. So when we're in the pit and we have that moment to pause, that quiet space to really pause and say, why, what is my true why? Whether it's in leadership or life. So when you're focusing on leadership, why am I in this role? What is my ultimate purpose in this role? And taking the time to really understand and come back to realignment with our purpose allows us to then intentionally build our next step. And that's where those intentions come in. Because when we're clear about where we want to go next and that those steps are aligned to our purpose, we build this tenacity to actually do it. We rebuild our confidence to do it because it comes from the deeper passion we have for that purpose, for that why. So I invite everyone to really think about if you are right now in a pit, if you find yourself in that dark place where you're thinking everything's going wrong, nothing is going well, you're unhappy, step back from those thoughts and say, what if this is a pause? What if this is life's way of giving me a moment to just come back to who I really am and why I do what I do?
And
And really do that introspection to say, what do I really want? Because, especially as leaders, works, circumstances, people, challenges, not meeting certain goals, those will get us down in the pit. So when we do that realignment, we're able to say, okay, this is what my purpose is. Now let me take a look at what am I actually doing day to day? And is that aligned to why I'm doing this work? So I talk about aligning your practice to your purpose because we tend to do a lot of stuff. And sometimes those stuff get us away from our purpose.
Yeah.
So in the pit, you'll find yourself realigning, and that will bring up your energy to say, I can't wait to go back and do this. So I invite your listeners to really contemplate on the concept of the pit, and certainly this self-reflection journal for 31 days will walk them through those opportunities to really do that process.
That is fantastic. Please let viewers know, listeners know how they can take advantage of your offer. It's the best.
Absolutely. So again, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Dr. Mariné Avagyan, and you can just request the journal, and I'll be gladly share that with you. Or on my website, drmarine.com, you can send me a message, request the journal, and I will gladly share that with you. And let's continue that conversation.
Oh, that's wonderful. I do want to take a little bit of a left turn because I think this is a really critical question I want to ask you. I want your input on this. Many women are not only working full-time jobs, they're the head of the household, and they're involved in either elder care, child care, or both. And so self-care can really fall to the bottom of the list. What are some of the things that, taking this 31-day guide, doing the work in it, how will this help women specifically manage that split we are always trying to balance between, which is the home life and the work life?
Our physical and mental wellness is at the foundation of everything we do in work, in life, in our personal experiences. So, something to really keep in mind is how do we build and ensure that taking care of ourselves is has a prominent space on our calendar.
Mm-hmm.
With my clients, we always start and finish with their plan for self-care. So we finish our sessions with what is it that you are planning to do? And clients sometimes will say, well, I'm going to be going to my child's game, or I'm going to be going on a family trip. And my answer is, that's beautiful. I love that family time is on your schedule. So what will you be doing for you?
Yeah,
Now, with that, we also talk a lot about doing it without guilt,
right.
because if we really want to serve our family and our organization, our community, they deserve to have a person who is feeling really well,
Yeah,
physically and
yeah,
mentally.
yeah.
And that's why we have permission not to feel the guilt. The other thing that I often talk about with my clients we work on is building work life harmony, not
Mm-hmm.
balance,
Right.
because balance is an elusive concept. If you
Yes.
really think of balance, balance is, I always think of it as those vintage balance scales
Mm-hmm.
where you have to have the plates at equilibrium. And
Exactly.
what does it take to throw those off balance?
Yeah.
A very tiny ounce will throw them off balance.
Exactly.
That's not real. So for us to think about work-life balance, that is an elusive concept. The reality is it's about work-life harmony, which means sometime work will take more focus and
Right.
sometimes life will take more focus. And
Yes.
we do that without guilt. That I know that I have a big project coming up at work. So for these couple of weeks, days, I will put more time in there. And I know that there's a family thing coming up, and I know I'm going to dedicate myself there. And in that harmony, we also build time for ourselves, where, yes, I will go and do something for me because I want to continue to refuel myself, replenish myself, re-energize myself so that I can be there on whichever arena, work or life, fully present,
Mhm.
fully available, fully ready to give. We cannot give from an empty bucket. I know this is something we've heard over and over, and
Right.
it is real. If we have a leaky bucket of self-care where we're giving more than we're actually refueling, refilling,
Mhm.
eventually we're going to hit burnout.
Yeah.
And we know how critical that is. And there is data that demonstrates how huge that is for women because we're giving
Yes.
on two fronts,
Yes.
sometimes three fronts, right? From
Right.
work, our children, our families, caregiving. So super important that we are refilling that bucket and doing it to ensure that our foundation is strong.
Yeah. I love that mindset shift of give yourself permission to let go of the guilt. And what I'm hearing is that self-care is critical and self-care is not self-pampering.
Yeah.
It's not, oh, I get to spend time with my family. That's great. But yeah, so, so important. What would you say is another major mindset shift that's really important for women who are working full time, being a mom full time, taking care of the house full time? I love the let go of the guilt. What is something else you would share that would be really practical for women listening? That is another mindset shift they could take.
I find that as women, we often are waiting for someone to give us permission to be whatever that be is, to
Yeah,
be the boss, to be an entrepreneur, to be a mom, to be whatever it is that we choose to be. I'd like us as women to know that we give ourselves permission.
exactly. Yes. Yes.
So if you were waiting for someone to give you permission, here, permission granted, go.
Dr.
Right?
Avakian has given us all permission
Right?
to step into our agency.
Right? Because we do not, there isn't an entity, as someone out there who holds that
Right.
permission contract that's waiting to be signed. It is ours to give. And while, yes, we have responsibilities, our responsibilities are not there to take away the permission.
Right.
They are there for us to choose how to build the harmony between when it's for me, when it's for my work, when it's for my family. So knowing that we give ourselves permission is important.
I have one more question about leadership because I think this is really kind of the crux of it. As a coach, how are you helping your clients who are either part of a high performing team or in senior leadership to stay grounded and to stay collaborative and compassionate for self and others while still being results driven?
Especially as leaders, it is critical that we remember we are leading human beings first.
Yes, yes, yes.
I always say people before positions.
Hmm.
We are in the business of human beings, and these human beings are who drives the KPIs
Right.
and all these other results that we're looking for.
Yeah.
While we understand accountability and we hold ourselves high to those accountability requirements, if we forget that we're dealing with the human beings, we will find ourselves in great deal of challenge and
Yeah.
crises because we have to always remember it's the people that
Yes.
drive the results. So I always say, you can be kind and you can lead, right?
Yes. Yes.
And when we say that, this isn't about, well, just be nice to everybody. This is
Correct.
about acknowledge that this is a human being in front of you. Sometimes as leaders, we have to have those hard conversations.
Yes.
We have to give directives. That's part of the role. And we can do that kindly. So, at the ground level of leadership are relationships. They are critical to the work that we do. If we invest in those relationships, people will rise to the occasion.
Hmm.
We've all heard, you know, people don't care about what you do, but they will remember how you made them feel.
Correct. Yes. Yes.
Misquoting, I understand. But that's really what it's about. When someone that is on your team says, for you, I will do anything, that person's relying on that relationship that you have built. So taking the time to know who we're serving, building space and time for those relationships allows for the person to also see that they are seen, cared for, that they matter as a human being. When that happens, now we're able to actually have those difficult conversations. Now we're able to actually sometimes even talk a person out of a job because that's part of the role. Leadership includes all those difficult conversations, but it is done with kindness and with the human in front of us so that the dignity of that person is protected.
Yeah.
And those people that we may have actually fired will continue to talk about us in that positive light even after they've been fired because they know that this was done for a reason and not because it was just a random decision, that it was intentional, it was to harm the person, hurt the person. So keeping relationships and the humanity of the work that we do as leaders in mind, I think is at the core of our high performance.
Yeah. So agree with you. Um, if there's anyone listening, and I'm sure there are more than a few who are like, I think I need to coach with Dr. Avakian, what is the easiest way for people to reach out and get on your coaching schedule?
I would love to support any of your listeners. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. In fact, on my LinkedIn page, there's a booking link where people can book time with me on my calendar. I would love to see how I can support you. And I'd love to know where you are on your journey in leadership and what pit you may have found yourself in. So please do connect with me on LinkedIn and let's take this conversation further.
I've spoken like a true leadership coach. I love that. Um, what is the one message that you would like every listener to, I mean, and there's so much material here, Mariné. You're really quite brilliant. But what is that one lesson you would like any listener to take away after listening to this episode?
What I would love people to take away is that if you have chosen the path to leadership, there's something in you that knows this is for you. And remember, you have to invest in yourself to become that ultimate leader. Invest in yourself by having your mentors, having a coach, having a team, reading, being surrounded by other leaders so that you are continuing to develop yourself. And remember, as a leader, you are there to serve. And that's what it's really about. It's
Mhm.
the service to others, service to people, to humans. That is important. So build your team support system, and build your team with heart.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, that's so for everyone listening, Dr. Avakian has provided an awesome gift based on her coaching framework, which is purpose, intention, tenacity, referred to as the pit, because not every day is going to be a lovely, beautiful day, especially in the leadership role. You will be challenged. You will be question, you will be wondering if you're doing the right thing. And so having an actually 31-day guide that will help you self-reflect is a wonderful gift. So, Mariné, please explain one more time how listeners can take advantage of your gift and how they can connect with you online.
So thank you again for this opportunity to all the listeners. Thank you for listening. Thank you for giving yourself this opportunity to grow. The self, the self-reflection journal, it's 31 days to help you really deepen your understanding of what to do when you find yourself in the pit and how to make sure you're always ready when it happens. Connect with me on LinkedIn. You can message me on LinkedIn. I'm glad you send you the self-reflection journal. You can also connect with me on my website, drmarinea.com, and send me a message, and I will again happily share the journal with you. And let's continue the conversation because I would love to know as you use the journal what your reflections are, what your growth is, and I'd love to celebrate you as well.
This has been really a wonderful experience for me being able to interview you. I so appreciate everything that you bring and your work in transformational leadership. Thank you again.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you again for this great opportunity. And thank you for the work that you're doing in serving leaders and serving women out there. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thanks for listening. This has been Grace, Grit, Getting It Done. I'm your host, Lisa Gillette. If you have questions or you'd like to reach out and be a guest, drop me an email, lisa@bigsky.coach. That's lisa@bigsky.coach. Thanks for listening.